you open the door for somebody else.
Welcome into the vaccine conversation. The last time I'm going to ever be saying that for season 1.
I know.
Of our podcast. So welcome into the vaccine conversation with Melissa and Dr. Bob. Oh my gosh, I think last time you said Dr. Bob and Melissa, didn't you?
I did. And you didn't catch it.
I
right?
didn't. I just realized that now because I'm like, am I supposed to say my
so
name
funny.
first? I don't remember it being first.
That probably confuses the listeners because they're like, why isn't it Dr. Bob and Melissa?
I know.
mean,
and can you explain to everyone how that was not my choice, but it was yours? That was your
I will
choice.
re-explain because I think I said this in the first few episodes, but no, to me, the vaccine conversation with Melissa and Dr. Bob just is way catchier sounding anyway. The vaccine conversation with Dr. Bob and Melissa. To me, just Melissa and Dr. Bob is better than Dr. Bob and Melissa.
You know why? You
But
wanted
that's
people
not
to
why.
end. You wanted people to end with you, so at the end, the last thing that they're saying
it's
and
like-
remembering is Dr. Bob.
It's like the vaccine conversation with somebody.
Melissa and Dr.
Bob.
With Melissa and Dr. Bob. That's
No, but I think it was kind of my own personal acknowledgement of knowing which one of us is more intelligent, is smarter.
No,
is
that is the
brings-
martyr in you saying that. The truth is what you already just said, which was it sounded better and it rolled off the tongue better to be ending with Dr. Bob because that's what people will remember. Don't listen to him, guys. This was not like his charitable, like, oh, I just realized that, I came second when it comes to this podcast. I'm going to put no. It was what he said first. Don't let him fool you. It
I
was,
will admit it's
yes.
both. It's a little bit of both.
Okay. Well,
Anyway, so welcome to part 2 of our season finale.
we should do a
for
part 3
season
and a part
1.
4 and a part 5.
Anyway, so yeah, we reminisced and talked a lot about kind of what went on over the season, and
so now what we should do is we should talk about the things we're going to talk about in season 2.
that is a fantastic idea.
Oh
Melissa.
my!
Did you
I
think about
just thought of this.
So cool. That would make a great part 2 for our season finale.
Let's do that.
Okay, so
Wow.
all right, excellent. So moving forward, I know you and I have kind of collected a number of topics that we keep wanting to get to,
Yes.
and then we don't. I kind of have like a running list of them, but
Tell me.
I mean, one of my interesting topics that I'm trying to learn more about, and kind of goes in the line of immunity, is how to maybe detox your body or support your immune system in the midst of immunizations or vaccinations.
Or after them.
Right. Like before and after them, what can you do? And I'll be honest, I've had no formal training in that. But there are doctors that I know who have,
Right.
And I've finally kind of tracked down what I felt was maybe the best put together list of things you can do to help your body, support your body during vaccinations. And so we'll do an episode on that, and we'll kind of explain each supplement and how it works, and
Now,
why
would this
it works.
be
and
under the biomedical healing kind of?
similar, but
Okay.
but things I'd never heard of or hadn't
Mm-hmm.
even learned about, and things that kind of surprised me, and
Okay.
and so yeah, I think that'll kind of be an interesting topic, and it's a lot of work. It's not, you don't just say
Oh, yeah.
3 things. It's you do this and this,
But it's
and
for
you
months,
don't need
too.
sugar, and you really do it. It's very involved. So that'll you can look forward to that. So don't get any vaccines until we have that episode.
Don't say that.
I know.
You'll get attacked.
See the disclaimer at the end of every episode, right?
I love that.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
Well, you need to get to your conflicts of interest episode, which is
Yes,
probably like
yeah.
a 2-parter, I guess.
Yeah.
That's something that we've touched on, but would be good to get. I want to do an episode about trusting pharmaceutical companies
Okay.
and whether or not that trust exists
Okay.
in the American public and as a global society. Do we trust, and when did that trust change if we don't anymore? When did that happen? And kind of discuss some of the
Okay.
major lawsuits and things that have happened, which
Okay.
have eroded the public's trust
Yeah.
because of people being harmed and it being covered up and all these settlements and things. So I definitely want to get into an episode about that.
Yeah, I'm writing that down because
Write it
'cause
down.
I have a good friend who used to be a farmer rep. You know her. I won't say her full name here, but Michelle. Used to
I
work.
thought you were going to say someone.
Oh yeah, let's have her on the episode. Sorry.
I was like, you are keeping the straightest face right now. Like, you're really selling it. And then I was like, oh my God, is he serious? Yes, talking about somebody else. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, but she's,
Gotcha.
she's, her and her husband and Cheryl and I get together a lot, and she's told me a lot of stories about her her time working
Michelle,
for pharma. Yeah,
yes.
Michelle. And so, yeah, it might be fun to have her on for that episode.
That would be good.
Anyway.
I've gotten some people that asked me to do an episode on Tylenol and then how it relates to vaccines and how it relates to just its own new data that's kind of putting out warnings for Tylenol. That's one of the ones. We haven't
Well, no, people are like, well, wait, what's wrong with Tylenol?
Don't take
Try not to
Tylenol
take
until
Tylenol.
season 2.
Don't take Tylenol with your vaccines until. Exactly. That's funny.
I think a big thing that we have not gotten into that we need to is going to be the 1986 court ruling,
Yes. Yeah.
vaccine court.
Ooh, yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much to cover with vaccine court.
Yeah, and I want to get Barbara Lowe Fisher in here for that.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like I've.
She said yes. Remember, she said yes to coming on here. We emailed
I think
earlier on.
but we just never made it happen. Is that whose fault is that?
I'm going to put that on you.
No, you're right. We totally have to do that because Barbara lived through that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you have the big name, so she's not gonna respond to an email from me.
a topic that I want to. I'm looking forward to is, and I keep putting up, is I really want to dissect Del Bigtree's letter to Health and Human Services, where he basically scientifically shows the complete lack of safety research
Right.
done on vaccines.
With true placebos.
Right. And we actually did kind of our own version of that topic before I've ever had access to this letter that Del wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw Del's letter, I was like, oh my gosh, we sort of did it in generalities. He basically, highlights every single vaccine and
Del,
how it was not
were you listening
studied.
to the podcast, Del?
He's
Del.
and we would have Del in here also. I mean, that would be fun to have him.
Yeah.
He's on vacation. He's on vacation now too. But anyway, so I want to do that letter.
We have to do the infant mortality rate and the different vaccine schedules of different countries.
Okay.
Because I think people are really interested in how we relate to the world as we
Yeah.
look at vaccines and what kind of
Because we touched on that with Japan.
We did, but not
so
overall.
So you're volunteering to do that research?
Yes,
and,
I've done most of it.
And I'll let you say all the important parts and all.
It's
the
not a
most
study. It's only
fascinating-
on the study when I want to read quotes. That's the part that I like. People have asked me, and this is something that you've done in a one-pager before, but the idea of unvaccinated children not being a risk,
Yes,
not being
yeah.
a true risk.
Yeah.
I think we should cover that.
Okay.
That's your baby because
Okay.
you've done that before on a one-pager, I
Okay.
think. And and I want to do the genetic susceptibility data that we've came across with the 11 studies. I
Yeah.
want to talk about new research that talks about adverse events, adverse reactions, and the
Mm-hmm.
connection to family history and genetic susceptibility. I think that's huge because that's a big basis of what we're fighting for in California right now.
It's something
MEs, no
that
thanks.
I'm right in the middle of reading right now is Melissa sent me this book that was written like
Oh, yeah, we've
130 years ago or something. And we already did we did an episode recently about the origin of the anti-compulsory vaccination movement recently. In fact, that was our last episode. And that was kind of a look into history about how they kind of, developed that movement and what went on in England. But there's an even better book that was written before that and goes even further back in history that tracks basically smallpox and not just in Europe, but in the United States.
Right. Not just in
And
the United States, in California.
in San
Southern
Diego.
California,
I know.
yeah.
And they literally are almost as if...
In the year 1900, in
know.
1898.
Yeah. And it's almost as if you and I were to write a book about the last 2 months of our lives.
Pretending to be in the year 1900.
No, but that's what this book was.
I know, it really
this
was.
literally you and me touring around, giving town halls, talking to people.
It was so
and,
interesting.
And like writing, we didn't do a lot of newspaper articles, but writing newspaper articles, it basically portrays this fascinating debate and argument in the public only about one vaccine, though.
Right. One mandatory
Right.
vaccine.
And people talking about the dangers of the vaccine, why it should not be mandatory, and other people talking about why it should be mandatory because it's for the good of everybody and it's safe and effective and no one's being harmed.
And making fun of and being derogatory to people that questioned. It's exactly the same. They talked about the conflicts of interest. They talk about legislators being bought. They talk about the media, all these things. And this is 120 years ago, like you're saying. And it's the same conversation, but it's in the original text, which is awesome. It's over 300 pages. So it's going to take us a bit to get through. That's what we're doing on break. And we'll come back to that for season 2.
Yeah.
I wanted to definitely we have to get to chickenpox and shingles. That's a really interesting dynamic in what happened with the vaccination of the generation and how that has created the secondary problem.
Right.
We'll also do the vaccine and disease, right?
Right. Yeah. Is that 2 different episodes or just throw that?
I say it could be 2.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, just as a preview, literally the rise in shingles is because we are using the chickenpox vaccination in our child population. And surprise, they've made a shingles vaccine to combat shingles.
What? That is so shocking to me. I don't believe it. I'm going to have to see it to believe it. Oh my gosh, you believed me.
I know. I'm like, wait, don't you know that there's a shingles vaccine?
Wait, are you saying that Zoster is a shingles vaccine? Duh, of course I know that.
Okay, I'm going to need a review in that character.
So I love you guys, and your podcast is amazing.
Jeez.
Don't fall out of the chair.
So you want to do medical tyranny as a topic?
Yes,
you
medical
keep bringing
tyranny.
up, but we never get to it. Is there an article for that? Or
there's some. I got some things up my sleeve. I also wanted to cover waning immunity. Really talk about waning immunity, what that means, and some different studies that discuss that.
Toll of vaccine injury on families. Yep. I know you've experienced that toll. I think probably not to the same extent where a family where the child has been permanently severely affected, and so maybe we almost would want to bring in a guest.
That wouldn't I wouldn't use my circumstance on that because I'm very well aware that I have it so much better than so many people who are struggling and have their lives have just been forever changed, and on top of their lives being forever changed and all the suffering, they're discriminated against and not even noticed and have no voice. So it is just really a sad state where we are. I know we wanted to talk about maybe some AFM stuff and how there's a potential connection. There are some theories that there is potential connection to that. I think I've been asked about that, I should say. This polio-like disease.
Yeah.
And why? And then how about not just that, but why nobody's really talking about that? Right? They're so worried about measles because we have a vaccine for that. The same thing in LA, how they have this typhus outbreak, and nobody's talking about it because And did you notice in the book, the 1900 book, how they keep talking about typhus and typhoid, and how at the same time the numbers were the same as smallpox back then. Here we have a typhus outbreak in LA. Nobody's talking about that, but let's talk about, by all means, let's talk about the 51 cases of measles where 80% of those are adults. Let's add that to an amendment, in fact, inside a bill that's out right now in our California legislature, because we might as well mention those 51 cases of our state measles when nobody's talking about the rest of the stuff going on. Yeah, we definitely have to get to that.
Yeah, and we'll do the rest of the diseases, of course. I mean, what haven't we done? We haven't done hepatitis B,
chickenpox,
and we haven't done chickenpox. We haven't done hepatitis A,
rotavirus.
We haven't done rotavirus. Okay, yeah, we haven't. Well, HPV. Gosh.
What have you done, Dr. Bob? Yes,
we have to do HPV because there's so much to do with HPV. I mean,
2 episodes.
Yeah, or 3. I mean, there's the disease and the vaccine, but the authors of the HPV vaccine on trial book, they've agreed to come on the show, and we just have to put it. And in fact, they're in New York, but they come out here periodically, so
we can have them in the
they'll
studio.
actually come in studio.
So 3 episodes then. 1, disease and the vaccine. 2, the controversy kind of surrounding it and as it relates to the world and their stuff. And then 3, the book. Okay. I like it.
Excellent. So don't get the HPV vaccine.
Don't do that either until season 2. I also want to do, one of the things I've been waiting for is the DPT documentary. I want to do an
Yes.
entire episode about that with
Yeah.
quotes.
Yeah.
Quotes from this 1982 doc expose about how at that time, teenagers and older adults had already been brain damaged from the DPT vaccine, and how they were being ignored and told it was not connected, and they had no recourse for anything at that time.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to what we're going now, and they knew about it in 1982. So I definitely want to cover that as well. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
What about hyperimmunity? I've told you about that. That's something I find really interesting because, and the reason I mentioned hyperimmunity, so hyper, obviously, in case you don't know, hyper meaning too much overstimulation of your immunity, because every time they just go, get another booster. It's like what people aren't really thinking about is how that could turn into a potential autoimmune reaction, autoimmune disease, because your body has too much immunity to one particular thing. And that's happened, and that's caused irreversible damage for people that I actually know from too much of something. And when people just go, oh, if you're not sure if you still have immunity, just get another one. It's like, you don't know what that's going to look like. And that's why your titers should be tested by blood to see where you are, where your levels are before getting a booster. You can't just keep adding boosters. You can't just do it because you know that they don't work well.
Right.
You have to look at like, how is this going to affect your body and what's already going on in your body? And so hyperimmunity is something I want to cover.
Yeah. And there's a topic I want to cover, and I think it'll be kind of interesting to see kind of how open and honest or raw that it gets. It's the idea that it's a theory that unvaccinated children are actually healthier than vaccinated children. I think, first of all, there's the scientific part of that statement is that there are studies that have found that to be true. And I actually want to go through those studies, like some European studies and one or two American studies. But I want to go through the studies that show that, but I also just want to talk about that.
How about the thousands of anecdotes?
Yeah,
that
on
we
just
hear?
a theoretical basis as a pediatrician, because I almost would venture to say that based on what I'm witnessing in my office, I would have to say that statement is probably true.
We would have Paul Thomas on for that. Dr. Paul Thomas, that would be an interesting.
We don't need Paul Thomas when we have
As
me.
a part two,
Right.
to talk about, because he's saying exactly what you're saying with his own data and what he saw in his practice.
Yeah,
and
with
what
his
you're
study,
saying.
right. But yeah, his is more about autism rates.
Right, but I mean, it's still the concept of having an unvaccinated population as part of your practice, and then having.
Yeah, so I think I just like to talk about as a doctor, what do I see in my unvaccinated population
as far as health
patients,
outcomes.
and how do parents factor that concept into the vaccine decision? And it's not to say that vaccines don't work. It's not about like, do they work or do they not work? Is that why I shouldn't or shouldn't do them?
Mm-hmm.
It's more, what's going to be the healthiest thing for my child, and how's my child going to be the healthiest he or she can possibly be for her entire life? And if that statement is true, that vaccines might lower the long-term health. If that's true, and we don't know for sure that it is, but if my observation on that is true, what do parents do that information? How do they factor that in? Because it's a huge dilemma, because then you're deciding to go without vaccine protection, so you're risking the diseases. But as long as you don't die from one of those diseases, are you going to grow up as a healthier person? And do you take that risk or not? It's a tough place to be in, but I think it's an important discussion to have. So
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree wholeheartedly, Dr. Bob. What were you saying? Just kidding. I think it would be good.
Yeah.
I have 4 other topics here.
Okay, because I'm out. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, vaccination in the military. We've got to get to that. Have some people on. We need to have some people on that have been in the military and to have their descriptions of what's going on. Okay. The theme that I've seen with military is, and this has happened, I've seen this multiple times. They lost the records. They couldn't find the records.
Yeah.
And so they just revaccinated. And these people have no idea what they were given and how many doses they were given. The other thing, aluminum. We have to do a whole thing on aluminum.
Gosh, yeah.
And you're going to get.
I can't believe we haven't done.
You're going to get.
Well, we can either get
Shaw?
Exley or Shaw or both.
Or both. Aluminum could be 2 episodes with 2 different.
But again, why would we need another person?
No, we need them. I love them.
I must say, I mean, in 2007 was the first version of the vaccine book, and to me, I couldn't find anyone that had ever put together a whole big, huge piece on aluminum before that, but there has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, 2007 is
a while ago.
Is not that long ago. There had to have been something before that, but I could never find it. I couldn't find something. But I mean,
those would be two great episodes. We should have both.
Yeah, and I've learned so much since the original version of 2007. I've learned way more.
Oh yeah.
And I think even something more recently written about aluminum is even better done. So yeah, we're definitely gonna do aluminum 2-parter. Maybe. Probably for sure with one of those guests.
I think we should do too. Another thing, I want to talk about SIDS.
Yes.
I want to talk about SIDS and the timing of SIDS and how it relates to vaccination and what kind of correlations there have been.
Sudden, unexplained infant death. They've changed the name. It's no longer SIDS.
It's SUIDS?
Yeah, it's SUID. Sudden, unexplained infant death. And the reason they changed the name, first of all, they changed it to a name that's not an easy acronym to say.
Interesting.
So that it's not catchy. So people won't talk about it. Because people talk about SIDS all day, but you can't talk about SUID or sudden unexplained. That's one reason. But the other is they don't want it to be a syndrome. They want it to be totally unexplained.
There's no answer.
So that there's nothing to do with vaccines. There's no cause. There's nothing to do with anything.
Why.
Exactly.
We just don't know.
And that's very clever of the whoever labels
and very
diseases.
Manipulative.
Yes. So we'll talk about that.
Definitely want to talk about that. And then the last thing I have on here that I want to talk about. Wait, let me make sure it's the last thing. Oh no, it's not the last thing. Okay. Another thing is vaccines and food allergies.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about that. A lot of people have asked me about that. I want to talk about, when we talk about Vaccine Court, I want to talk about how they conceal the records and that part of it and what records we have.
That's got to be its whole own episode. Like the experience of somebody going through Vaccine Court. I almost would want to get a lawyer for that.
Or maybe even a parent who's gone through it too. Or both.
Okay.
Let's see.
You're skipping episodes. Are they not like interesting?
Oh, I mean, some of these we've kind of done.
This is probably where I should be talking while you're looking at your
No, people like
this.
So what about how the media portrays a disease before and after there's a vaccine for it?
Yes.
Would be a cool little episode. These are, be shorts. Okay. And then the adult mandated vaccine schedule. We haven't talked about that. That's something that's worth talking about. Oh my God, you're yawning. That is awful. Totally awful.
I think it's my first yawn on the podcast. Is it not?
Preemies and vaccination. We have to do that also.
Oh my gosh. You are so incredibly right, because there is some very serious risk to preemie vaccination that people don't know, that there is some very good solid data on showing the cardiac risk and apnea risk and all kinds of risks.
Especially from the hepatitis B vaccine and adverse reactions to that.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can hear this. Those are all the papers getting stacked together. I just want to sound official here. Hold on.
See, my iPad doesn't make any noise.
Don't pretend you have an iPad here. You're making these things up as you go. Do we want to turn that into 2 episodes? Lengthwise?
I don't know. So that was about an hour and 5. We didn't start right at 4.
Well, very close. But if we do, we should record it now.
Okay. See, we've recently thought, we'll probably.
We don't have to tell them. Yeah, we don't have to tell them.
Okay, but okay. Well, well, why don't we?
We don't have to. I just want to just make one long sayonara.
Okay.
Just one long see you later.
I have to remember to. Whenever I know I'm going to cut something, I have to put it on here, because sometimes I'll forget and I don't listen to the whole thing before we air it. And,
no, don't tell me that.
Something's on the end that I was supposed to cut and I didn't.
Oh, geez. So don't tell me that. Now I have to listen to all the episodes through. I think you have to say goodbye for season 1 in one of your voices. Definitely have to do that.
Well, let me give you previews of. Everyone. Inspector Clouseau. I'm sure was very magical. What else can I do? I will say my best, and hopefully you know who these people are.
Okay.
Bob and Doug McKenzie from the Great White North. You have no idea who
Are
that
they like
is.
Minnesota
You're
style?
staring at me blankly.
What do
They're
they sound
Canada.
like? Okay.
Canada.
Oh, yeah, hey there.
So that's
I'm
Minnesota.
sorry. Okay. I'm
I can
sorry.
kind of do Minnesota, but I'm going to give you guys, this is going to
Okay.
be a real treat for you. But you
have
don't
to- they're
know
gonna have to
Bob
wait.
and Doug McKenzie. Huh? Oh my
no,
gosh.
they're gonna have to wait until season 2 for
Young,
that.
right?
Yeah?
Oh, they are going to have to wait.
Okay.
I can do South.
Okay.
I can do Southern.
Maybe we should sign off in a Southern.
No,
A Southern sign-off?
No, to get in. To get in.
So start now. Start talking now as we kind of get used to it. Hi, Dr. Bob. I like my Sanchito. I'm like, what do you look like, Sanchito? But you know what I did on that review? I went from like Texas Southern to
Yes,
like
you switched. Yeah.
totally like Alabama Southern or Georgia. I went from like right into how could you? I went from first like hello Sanchito, which is like the girl from Pee Wee Herman who said Adobe. Remember that movie? It was just Adobe Sanchito. It's like a different kind of than how could it be? And I totally like went from one
That's
to the
like
other.
deep South from the 1800s.
Yeah,
right?
but
Yeah.
see, this is what happens when you're not great at accents. You kind of just stumble between them sometimes, and that's what I did. But
Anyway, so I don't know what else I have. I'll do something Southern
you know what?
someday. But
You've got time to figure it out. That's
do.
part of your homework, sir.
yes, it is. All right.
That's part of your homework. You're
Okay.
going to come up with your characters, but we still should name our other characters.
Yeah,
They should have
okay.
names so that
Okay.
we can say, so that I could say to you, Inspector, what do you think about this? And then you could be like, oh, is this truth? What did you say? It was like, I couldn't even listen to that. You're just like, what did you say? Truth. You're like, truth. It sounded like you were joking. Which you probably were too, because you're always
Yes.
clearing your throat. So, Inspector, here's you.
Have you watched it yet? Go on
No,
YouTube.
I
and go on,
haven't.
Type in Inspector Clouseau.
I won't
You'll
be able
like,
to.
Oh my gosh, Bob, that was just.
I won't. No,
amazing."
I won't be able to.
Well, we'll wrap this up, but I think we're headed into a tough week this week, and then a tough.
Don't
weeks
remind me. I
after
just
that.
forgot about it. Honestly, I
know.
was so in the moment
I
right
know,
there
right?
that I
I know.
totally forgot about all
I know,
this.
and that's what I appreciate about podcasting, and I like that's I go back and listen to each one of these. Like if I have to listen before, to kind of do some editing, but if I don't have to do editing, I'll just listen to it once it's aired. And I love listening back to these. I think they're entertaining to myself, and I'm so entertaining to myself. Right? I love that.
How many times do you like laugh at yourself? You're like, that's a good one. He's funny. No, I bet, you know what I bet you do? I bet like when I talk or when I have cooperative listening or what is it called? And I interrupt you that you're like, let the doctor speak. I bet you're like listening in your car, like, let the doctor speak,
I'm
ma'am.
totally like that.
Totally.
Okay. Well, that was one of the funniest episodes is where you didn't interrupt me. You purposely would not interrupt anything I said. And I was like rolling on the floor laughing so much. Like you're doing it right now.
Okay, please stop talking so I can say something. Yes, that was really funny because your laughter was so it was spontaneous that you were like actually really really laughing, and every time I hear that and I hear you laughing, it makes me laugh because I can tell that you were genuinely laughing.
Yeah.
Like it was not like the fake like courtesy laugh that I get sometimes from you, like okay, it's so
Did I do that? No, I just look at you and say that wasn't funny, Melissa.
like,
that wasn't funny.
yeah.
Anyway, so
Give
yeah,
us,
but
give us
we're
an accent on the way out. Come on. I'll be like, how about because see, in a British accent, there are different kinds of British. You know,
I
very
can't
proper.
do anything
I know you
British.
said, but then there's also kind of like dirty British, which is more
Yeah.
like, hello, like, what are you talking about? It's like more like,
Yeah, Cheryl and I watched a British show, and the accents, it was sort of like upstairs, downstairs or something.
Yeah.
The accents were so we couldn't understand it. We had to turn on the
Closed captioning.
subtitles.
Closed
Yes.
captioning.
Turn on the subtitles.
I've had to
for
do
a
that
British
once
show.
before. Like, oh, you say, you're like, what just happened? Oh, right. All
But anyway,
right.
so we hope to return with good news, exciting news with this California fight. And
I don't want to think about news. I just want to think about togetherness today at our rally. And that's all I want to talk about. Right? I don't want to talk about all this law stuff. It's
okay, well,
bollocks.
we will sign off. before. Oh, why? Well, anyway,
Did you say, oh, why?
I probably did.
You're like, oh, why?
No, but we hope to return with good news and exciting news. And if we don't, we will still return. We promise we'll be back. There's absolutely going to be a season 2. And,
Listen, everybody, we're probably
forward to
not going to return with good news. Let's be real. We're probably not.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that good things aren't happening.
Right.
And that's what tonight's rally is all about.
Right. And that's what we're going to be moving forward with, for.
We've said before,
years,
it's bigger than this bill.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about this bill, another law. There's always a chance a law can be undone and another bill comes out that's to our advantage. The most important thing is that we are doing something and having conversations and that we are helping to change the public perception on this issue. That's the good stuff.
Right.
Because that is making a difference whether it looks like it or not. And that's the good news.
Yeah.
We are most likely not going to have any good news about this bill and about some of these bills that we've seen.
Right.
And that is not the indicator of whether or not we're making a difference and whether or not people are having an impact.
Right, because sometimes politics on that level sometimes is beyond the constituents' control on the short term.
How about almost always?
Right. I mean, people always say, well, why don't you just vote people out? Or
Yeah.
why don't the people have the power and the constituents have the power? We often feel like we don't.
Yeah.
So, especially when it comes to something like this. So, yeah, well, but one thing you can't count on is we absolutely will be back because you see how much we love doing this. And I couldn't not do this. I mean, there's no way to not do this because this is, I think this is probably not the funnest part of my week, but one of the things I look forward to.
Funnest is not a word. Okay, just so you know, not a word.
Thank you, Mrs. Floyd. What is it funner?
It is more fun. This is the most fun part of my day.
Okay, well, this has been season 1 of the Vaccine Conversation.
Vaccine Conversation.
With Melissa and Dr. Bob. Thank you for
Mary.
tuning in.
It's Mary. Mary Poppins.
That's what I said. That's
I know.
what I called you.
Duh.
So that'll be your character.
That's what I
There you go.
said. Come on,
Right?
dude. You just gotta keep up. Anyway, everyone, thank you for a great season. Thank you for all of your messages. Please keep the last thing I wanted to say that I promised myself I would say. If anybody really feels, I have people going like, oh my gosh, I love your stuff. Like, what could I do for you? If you live locally, I would love, this is what somebody already did for me and I loved it. A gift card to Harmony Tea Bar where I get my matchas in the morning so that I can go through all this data and put together posts, and they are keeping me alive right now. And I love them and look forward to them. And it's like, it was so great. It was such a sweet gift. I was given a gift card there with these flowers one day. It was the sweetest thing. Somebody dropped it off to in my house. So I'm not giving my address over the podcast. However, if you are local, Harmony Tea Bar gift card, send it to Dr. Bob. He will pass it on to me. Won't you, Dr. Bob?
Yes, I will, of course.
So if you just felt inclined to do something, I would love it. And you still like Starbucks coffee, right? So
I don't go to Starbucks that much anymore.
Oh, you don't anymore?
Actually.
Okay.
No, I don't go that much anymore. But
But if you had a gift card.
If I have a gift card, I give them to Cheryl. She goes to Starbucks.
I'm just throwing out ideas for you because people have messaged me and asked what they could do, and so.
Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can share episodes on social media. I mean, you can tell people about the podcast, of course, but if you like a particular episode and you're listening to it on your podcast app, there is like a share button. You can share this with, email it, to people email it to a friend and share it on, not just on social media, you can share it on text. You can share it with people. And, the more and more people listen, our listenership continues to grow. We've had, we're over, about 307,000 downloads now, but we keep growing, and we're going to be at probably like 80 something thousand listens this month. Well, actually, we won't now because this is the season finale. So
how dare you mess with our statistics?
We're going to end a little shy this month, but that really encourages me that it keeps going up and up. So
we had 4,000 listens in one day.
Oh, cool.
That was the highest we've had so far. I went over 4,000.
So keep sharing. Cool. I mean, if it's something you want to know, you can do share, rate and review us. Reach out on our Facebook page.
I keep forgetting Immunity Education Group. our
Yeah.
website,
Yeah.
our Facebook page, there's a donate button.
Yeah. People
I always
do.
forget. I know.
Yeah,
and I keep
people
forgetting
do.
to say it because,
Yeah.
again, I really hate asking for
Yeah.
money in that sense. But we have some plans of things that we want to do. And it's really impossible to do this as a full-time job for me, without being able to have the means to be able to do the things that we're doing because, we're always out of pocket, for things that we're doing, or it's just hard to put that kind of time in for that. So please.
Yeah, I
that
appreciate
would
the
be
donation.
awesome.
I get an email every time you get a donation, and I appreciate it. So it's always very encouraging. You don't get the email, so you don't
I
get like
don't.
I should email you and say,
But
hey,
I think people from the podcast don't realize that where they wanted to support this would be through Immunity Education Group,
Right,
because
that's
we don't
true.
have a vaccine conversation page with a donate button there.
Right.
It's only under Immunity Education Group.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if you feel so inclined, or you need a tax write-off, you know where to go. It's an educational
yeah.
nonprofit.
Exactly, yeah.
So-
ImmunityEducationGroup.org. Yeah, it is our nonprofit. Yeah, and we greatly appreciate that. So thanks for listening, you guys. This has been a wonderful season 1, and we'll see
You can't see me, but I'm giving the official, what is this?
salute.
Military salute, the send-off. Thank you all again.
We're gonna be the peace we wanna see in the world. Yeah, be the peace we wanna see in the world. Be the love we wanna see in the world. Be the joy we wanna see in the world. Be the change we wanna see in the world.
The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. Always consult your healthcare professional for information on vaccines and infectious diseases.